All right, thank you for joining us for this week's Lunch and Learn. And this week we are going to be doing a few little Excel tips and tricks. And hopefully you will learn a tip or trick that you may not have known. And I want to again welcome you to this week's edition. And hopefully you will join us again in some of our other Lunch and Learn or some of our tech bites that are a little bit longer. So this week, I am your presenter. My name is Prestine Parten. I'm here at the Southwest REC Region 10 and our headquarters here in Deming. So I am going to go ahead and get started. We only have a 30-minute session, and so I want to try to see that I can get everything in and answer any questions that you may have. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And Daniel, can you confirm that you are seeing my Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. I've done these in the past where I've been moving right along and they can't see my screen. So I want to make sure before I get too far along. All right, so again, just sharing some tips and tricks in Excel. So here we have just a common spreadsheet. And so as you can see, there's a lot of data here that is getting scrunched in here. You can tell because there's little number signs and you can't really see all of the data. And so for a lot of people, they go in and they adjust each column one at a time. But one of the tricks here is this little corner piece right here. If you click on it right here, then you highlight everything at once. And if you will just find that little crossbar on any of these columns and do a double click, it will adjust every single column to the width that it needs to be. And it will also work the same thing for your rows and adjust them to the row height that they need to be. So there is one of your little tips and tricks. And that has been a game changer for me, let me tell you. So that one right there will adjust all of your rows to the width that they need to be. And then of course, after you finish that, if some of them are too long, because sometimes you have some really lengthy data in your columns, you can still go in and adjust these manually as well. All right, and another tip and trick that I really like is the Format Painter. So if you like to go in and change the fonts and different things and colors, things like that, then this one will be a fun one for you. So I always like to go in and jazz things up. And then for me, this bothers me when there are extra spaces in here, and I could go in one at a time and go in and change these. But if I have a very lengthy worksheet, then this is going to be pretty frustrating for me. So I could just go ahead and highlight this worksheet. And if I do a Control G and G for go to, so Control G, and I'm going to go to Special. And I'm going to select blanks. And what this is going to do is find all of my blanks in my highlighted area, such as this. And then I can delete from here. And I can just tell it that I want to shift all of the cells up from those blank lines. So if I have a table full or a spreadsheet full of blank lines, instead of going one by one, I can just do this and get rid of all of those at once instead of going hunting and pecking through all of those. So now it looks a little cleaner. Now I'll go back to my Format Painter. So if I wanted to make, let's say I wanted to make all of, I'm going to find something here. If I wanted to make all of my mouse items, let's say that I like to have them in this orange color, and I wanted to change the font. There we go. My computer's wanting to slow down on me. like to play with a lot of fonts here, can you tell? So if I wanted to play with this, I used to have a Disney font in here, that's what I was looking for. But let's say I wanted to make that one a real swirly looking one like that, and maybe make it bold. And if I liked that, then I could go in here and I could use this format painter. Now, if I click on it once, I can go and I can make that one time anywhere else. But if I wanted to do that and copy it again, if I click on the format painter twice, now I can repeat that. You see how it turned into a paintbrush because it's a painter? I can go in here and I can go anywhere in this document. Even if I wanted to go into another page, one of my other worksheets, I can go all around this workbook and continue using that same format until I hit my escape button. So I can turn that on and use that format, whatever I have turned it into. If I've turned on bold and a special font, a special color, everything, I can use that format painter to just change that formatting and copy it everywhere I want it to be. So again, clicking on it once will allow me to copy it one time. Double clicking, I can change it all over my workbook until I hit the escape key. So that's another little trick. Now, here's a trick that a lot of people do not know, and this will actually hold forward into any of the Microsoft products. See where it says clipboard in the ribbon right here? If you will click this little arrow, everything that you have copied in any of your programs is actually housed in your clipboard until you restart your computer. And so you have all of the things that you have copied and pasted, you always have it running in here. And so usually after you've copied something else, then you can't paste it in again, but you have all of these things. So I copied this earlier today. I can actually go in here and paste it somewhere. And so it's still holding on to those copies that you've done from earlier until the last time that you restarted your computer. And so a lot of people do not realize that. So in that clipboard, again, this holds true through all of Microsoft's products. So in Word, in Excel, in PowerPoint, this is gonna, anytime you see that little clipboard in the ribbon, if you click on it, it's gonna hold your copied items. So that's kind of cool. I wish I would have known that years ago because I'd always go back and copy it again. And it's always kind of hidden in there. So just to let you know that it's actually hiding in there. All right, and then a lot of people do know that you can add a row by clicking on it and going up here to insert. But what if you wanted to add several rows? A lot of people will just sit there and keep on hitting insert like multiple times. But you can actually just highlight. If I wanted 5 rows, I can actually go in and highlight 5 rows right here and hit insert, and it'll insert 5 rows. So a lot of people did not realize that that was a feature there. Same thing happens for columns. If I wanted to add a column, I can insert that column just the same way. And I can do the same thing whenever I want multiple columns. I can insert it that way as well. Okay, let me get back. Now, sometimes you're working with a spreadsheet and you don't necessarily want to delete items, rows and columns, because you might need them later, but you can hide them until you do need them. So let's say that you don't need this particular row, but you don't want to get rid of it. If you right click on it, you can hide that row. So you can hide it for now and work around it. And then when you're needing it again, you can just click on it and unhide it. And you can, it didn't even work, did it? So you can hide and unhide as necessary, especially when you're working with very, very wide worksheets or very, very long worksheets. You can hide and unhide as many as you need to. So I could have several of these, click on them and hide them. And then as I needed them, I could just go right back in and unhide. Just again, highlight them, right click, unhide. So just some little tricks there to be able to do that. Let's see. Also, when you are working on very, very big worksheets, then you can get around the worksheet so much easier. How many times have you used this little scroll bar and like scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and scrolled trying to get to the bottom of a worksheet, or scrolled this way trying to get to the side, to the end of the worksheet this way? So a little trick here is your control and your arrow button. So you can hit your control and your right arrow and it'll take you to the right side of the end of your worksheet, or you can hit your control and your down arrow and it'll take you to the bottom of your worksheet. So those are super easy controls to remember. So your control and your arrow will get you moving all the way around the corners of your worksheet. And let's see, some other things. When you are trying to get a count of things, maybe you're in the middle of a long worksheet, but you need to know how many rows there are, and you don't want to just sit there and count or trying to calculate. I personally can't count these rows in here, and even trying to subtract out there, I will mess it up. Just knowing me, I will mess it up. But if you highlight a series of rows or a series of cells, down here at the bottom, it will tell you how many you've highlighted. So if I needed to know how many this was, it tells me right here that there's 19. So a lot of people don't realize that it counts for you as you're doing things. So there's 19 right there. And let's see. I'm going to move on to another worksheet just to give you, actually, I'm going to do one more thing on this one before I move on. Let's see. If you wanted to sort through this information a little bit quicker, you can highlight this row that is your titles here. And up here where it says sort and filter, if you click on that and do a filter on this one, you'll notice these little arrows that up here, and you can sort through here quite easily. And you can go over here, for example, and it's going to show you all the different schools that are listed. So if I take off the select all and I just want to see all of them in Neverland and say, okay, it will filter through and just show me that data. And I can go back through and I'll say, okay, now I want just the ones from Hogwarts and Wonderland. I want those two schools. And so I can use that filter process to be able to get to some of that data that I can weed out some of that other stuff and help me to see everything. And then I can go back and say select all and click on OK, and all of my information is there. I can go over here and I can say, I want to see, let's see, here's birth dates. I want to see birth dates that are in, let's say October, because we're getting closer to October. So I want to see upcoming birthdays, let's say. And I'll say, okay, well, here's all of the ones that are going to have birthdays in October. So I can get a head start on planning for those October birthdays. And you can notice that I'll know which ones have a filter on because it changes. That little drop down arrow changes to the filter. And so I can see. And if I wanted to filter it down even more, I could say, okay, this one is all the October birthdays. And then I could say, okay, how many are in the Wonderland school? so then I can filter it down even farther. So now I've got 2 filters on, so I can filter these as many times as I want. And then I can go to those filters and just put everything as select all, and I've got all those going back to where I can see all of my data again. And then if I don't want to have that filter on any longer, I can go back in and remove that filter. And now it's just a plain worksheet again. Another thing that I can do here is find and select, which is really nice. So if I wanted to find everything that said mouse, I could find all of them, and it's going to show me everything that has mouse. So it's highlighted this one. It's like, okay, there's one of them, and I can find the next one. And I can just keep going through here and find all of the cells that contain that. I could also tell it, if you find the word mouse, I want you to replace it with, and maybe I want to be funny and I want to say, I want to replace it with, upper and lowercase, and I want it to be, let's see, I want it to be highlighted in yellow. And I could tell it I want to replace all of them, or I could go one by one and see which ones. But I'm going to say replace all of them. And it says there was 4. I can say okay. I don't see all 4, but I can see where it replaced the, I must have done something wrong in my own way of setting it up, but it did, there's 2 of them there. There must be some other mouses in there. I just don't see, oh, there they are, right there and right there. So it found all of them and replaced them with the crazy writing. I must have done something wrong in mine when I set it up right there. But it is, you can tell it to find and replace and tell it exactly how you want to replace that. So if I had all of these in capital letters, for example, and I wanted to replace it with proper, just a capital R and lowercase for the rest of the letters, I could correct all of that throughout my document. And that's something, sometimes I'll get a document and it drives me nuts when they're all in capitals like this. And I'll go through and I'll do something like that just to change it into proper text. So you could do that with the find and replace. Okay. So those are nice little tricks to have. So you're not like searching and trying to do it individually. It makes it a lot easier there. All right, I'm going to go to the next worksheet. And this one is an example of freeze panes, because when you have a long spreadsheet and you have some data in here and you think, well, what was this column? And then you have to scroll all the way back up to figure out what that column was. Freeze panes will allow you to freeze the top portion or the top and the side. You can freeze it to where when you're scrolling, you can see what that was. And so you can highlight the part that you want to freeze, and then you're going to go to view, and there is an icon right here that says freeze pane. So you can see it's color coded for you to be able to see this easily. And so if it's the very first line, it's easy enough. You just hit freeze top row. If it's a combination, you can see that you can do that as well. So I'm going to hit that. That was just the top row. Let me try that again. So now you can see, oh, I froze too many. Goodness. I'm going to try this one more time by hiding this one. I don't need that image to be showing. Let me get that out of the way. Okay, so now our first row is going to be frozen. I apologize. I'm going to unfreeze that. And now I'm going to do just the top row. So I want these dates to be showing. And no matter how far I scroll, you see how those dates stay there? All right, so dates all the way across, and then no matter how far I go down, I will have that top row. But as I mentioned, sometimes you need other information. Maybe it's the side row that you need so that you can continue going to the right and all of that data is scrolling along. And sometimes you need both the top and the left-hand side. So that is super helpful whenever you have a big spreadsheet and lots of information. Super, super helpful. Now, if you noticed along the bottom, I have named these. A lot of people, I will get worksheets from people and they still say sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. And you can delete these, you can name these, you can color code these. So if you don't know how to do that, you can either double click on them and just start typing. And then just hit enter, and then you can change the name that way. Or you can right click on that tab and you have a rename option here. And again, just start typing. And if you noticed when I right click, there are other things here. So you can color code these pages. And so I'm going to color code these pages to make them a little bit easier to stand out. I didn't even color code. Try that again. Tab color, that's what I needed. So that way you can make it easier. I'm very visual, and so I love color. I love to be able to see things and color code it to help me be able to recognize things. While we're on this page, I was also going to show you another little trick. So when you have, actually, I'm going to go over one more worksheet. When you have data, I'm going to change this back to a regular font so that I can read this better. Anything a little better here. Okay, all right, so when you have sorry, I should have done it this way instead. Okay. Lost my train of thought, I apologize. All right, so when you have data that has numbers in it, then there are some other little tricks that you can do as well. So for example, if I was to highlight one cell with numbers, and then I went over to this other one, and I didn't necessarily want to hit the sum of this and try to do formulas and stuff like that, but I was curious as to what these numbers might tell me. I could hit my control button and then that number. And right down here on this line down here, it would tell me the average, the count, and what the sum is without me having to do any formulas. And so I could do that with another number and it's doing the same thing. So I could do this without having to put any formulas in or anything like that, without having to change anything in my worksheet. I'm just kind of guessing. It's like kind of playing with the numbers a little bit, trying to get some ideas. It's like, well, what if I gave them 850? And so I'm just playing with some numbers. Like don't want to commit to it yet, and I don't want to, change up anything on my spreadsheet, but I'm just getting some ideas and it's calculating some information down here for me. So that's just kind of a trick there. You just click on the first number you want and you hold down your control button and click any of the other cells in there as well. But if you do want to add some formulas in here, you don't have to be a mathematic whiz to be able to put these in here. And so if I go to this column right here that has this open field and it's wanting an average in here, I would probably have to try to really think about how do I get an average so I can write this formula. But I don't have to really remember because Excel is a mathematical formula genius and I don't have to be. So I can go up here where it says auto sum, but it has this little drop down. I can click on this and it has some information in here, and average luckily is one of them. So I can click on average and I can tell it I want to know the average of this amount of money divided by this many students. And then I hit enter. Oh, that did not work at all. Let me try that again. How about this and this? Maybe I do need to be a mathematical genius. I'm gonna do the average. And it tells me right here, it's gonna be number 1 and number 2. So I'm gonna try this again. So average is this number. And then my F11 is going to be this number here. So now I've plugged in those two numbers and I just have to hit enter. And there's my number, except I had it in the wrong. There. I had my cursor in the wrong place. So if I had my cursor in the right place, now it tells me that the average of this much money with this many students is this amount. Now, if I wanted that across the board, then I could just take this little handle right here and drag it over. And now it's repeated that formula for me. I don't have to keep doing it and struggling with it, obviously. So it's doing it for me. I could also right click on it and copy that formula, because now I've run into a snag. There's text in here, but now I can go right here and paste it. And now I can continue with my copy. And so now if I look at each of these, it's doing exactly what I want it to. It's taking the amount, it's taking the number, and it's averaging it for me. So there's a lot of information it can do here. Now, sum is going to be easy enough to do. You can just add things up, no matter how long the list is, or if you want it to go left to right, if you want it to add up and down, it can do that for you. So I'm going to just take some numbers and add it across. Let's see if we can do that. Yes. Let's take this number this cell right here, and let's say that we want to add all of these numbers across. I can just hit the sum, auto sum, and it automatically found all those numbers across. And if I want to double check, I can just look. There's all of the numbers that I want. And there it is. I'm just going to hit enter, and it's added all of that up for me. And so if it doesn't have the right things highlighted, you just go in and fix what's highlighted and just change what's highlighted and then hit enter. And it does all of that mathematical wonderfulness itself. All right, I'm running out of time, so I do want to show, let's see, some flash fill. This has saved me a lot of time as well. So let me just fix this real fast. Okay, flash fill is great. Have you ever had a worksheet where you have the names separated, but you needed them together, and so you're trying to type them all in one by one? So here, if you just type in, so here it's last name and then the first name, and I want it to look like this. Okay, and it's like, doggone it, why is it in the wrong way? Well, flash fill is amazing because I can type it the way that I want. I go up here to data and I hit flash fill, and look what happens. It says, oh, you want it like this? Let me take that data and put it like that. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Now over here, I've got these addresses and I really just want the zip code pulled out of these addresses. And I don't want to have to type this whole list out by myself. So I'm going to type that first zip code out of there. Okay. And I'm going to hit flash fill again. And it said, oh, looks like you want zip codes. Here they are. Now over here, same idea. Oh gosh, I really just wanted the last names and they're all together. Doggone it, I wish I just had the last names. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit flash fill. There you go. There's all the last names. Time saver. All right, so I'm trying to honor your time. I did have some more, so maybe I will just have to have Excel tips and tricks another time with some additional things in there. But I hope that maybe you were able to get a couple of tricks in there that you didn't know beforehand. And let me stop sharing my screen. And again, I hope that you were able to get one or two things out of there. And this will be recorded. This has been recorded, so we are going to put this in the archives. And hopefully you will be able to share this with your friends if you got something out of it. And we will be having another one in a couple of weeks. I hope you can join us on our website, SWRECNM.org. You can see a list of all of our offerings, and we are in collaboration this year with Region 9. And so they have some tips and tricks. If you are a Google user, there's some tips and tricks for Google. And so lots of different training opportunities this year that we are really excited about being able to offer to everybody. So thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you again real soon. Thank you.